Many are saying that states should force landlords to accept Section 8 vouchers, but landlords should have the right to choose which government programs they participate in. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting story for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Iowa. So I live in Nebraska in Omaha, which borders the state of Iowa. So I'm in Iowa pretty much every single day. I go over to Council Bluffs, which is, right across the river from Omaha, Nebraska. So, I've considered investing there, and Iowa is a very, very right-leaning state. So they do have good property rights. They do believe in landlords' rights. And, it's one of those places where I would consider investing. But the story today is about a tenant over there, and she has a Section 8 voucher, right? And, she suffers from disability. She has faced homelessness. She has kids, and she is having a lot of difficulty finding housing. And so people are saying, oh, well, this is a perfect case example of why landlords should be forced to take these vouchers because this poor lady and her family, they can't find housing. Well, I disagree, okay? One anecdotal story about a tenant is not enough to convince me that we should trounce all over the property rights of everyone in the entire state or any state, okay? So it's absolutely ridiculous, and there are solutions to this sort of problem, but you know what, rather than talking about the correct solutions for people in this situation like this lady is in, they're trying to pass laws and regulations that make it more difficult for us to operate our businesses, okay? And this is the sort of nonsense that I've been seeing all across the entire country. So, it's one of those things where I don't agree where landlords should be forced to accept Section 8 vouchers. I don't believe in that, okay? It's a voluntary program. When it was created, the federal government says that it's voluntary, yet here we have states, local municipalities, etc., saying, hey, landlords have to take this. Well, no, I don't have to participate in this stupid program. I don't have to go through your stupid inspections. I don't have to take in these tenants who are garbage just because you think that, oh, well, the landlord should have to be forced to be a social housing provider. No, it doesn't work that way, okay? And even in states where those laws and cities where those laws exist, guess what? Landlords are still finding ways to get around it. So yeah, you might not like the fact that landlords don't accept the vouchers, but it is a fact, okay? It is an absolute fact, and there's always going to be those who don't want to participate. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So landlords on here, right? I know a lot of you do participate in the program voluntarily, of course, and I know some of you live in states that force you to accept these vouchers, right? And my question is, do you think that these laws, do they actually help the people who are on Section 8 find housing? That's the real question, right? If these laws don't actually help people who are on Section 8 find housing, then they're useless. They are 100% useless. Do you think that there was a landlord out there who didn't want Section 8, didn't want to participate in the program before, and now that they passed the law, all of a sudden he's like, yep, I'm accepting Section 8 all over the place now. There might be a few cases, I'm talking about large landlords, like corporate landlords, right? But I don't think that is the majority, okay? And I think, like I said, they're still finding ways to get around being forced to participate, okay? So anyway, let's get into this article. It's an interesting story. I'll let you know what I think. This article is coming from Business Insider, and it says, a homeless Iowa mom of 2 is struggling to find a landlord who will accept her housing voucher before it expires. The state is making it harder by allowing landlords to discriminate against her, right? And just the wording of the title there, oh, they're discriminating against her. Well, some forms of discrimination, they aren't wrong, okay? And discriminating against a person because they might, have a government voucher, that is actually not one of the things that's covered in, like it's not like a race or religion or sexual preference or disability status, right? And, that's completely different. Anyway, let me get into it. Stephanie Quinn was forced to move out of her Farley, Iowa apartment this spring. Quinn's Section 8 voucher and her children's schooling hinge on finding new housing by July 11th. Iowa law allows landlords to refuse vouchers, complicating Quinn's search for a new home. Stephanie Quinn was at work when her kids, 10 and 12, received a paper notice from their landlord informing them that the family wouldn't be offered a new lease on their 3-bedroom apartment in Farley, Iowa. A 43-year-old mother of 2, Quinn had 30 days to move out of the place she and her kids had called home for 5 years. The family has spent the last nearly 2 months staying with Quinn's boyfriend in his 1-bedroom apartment so that the kids can finish out their school year. But the living arrangement isn't sustainable, and Quinn has a looming deadline to find a new home. Okay, so a couple of things about this situation that we should go over first, right? So it's a very misleading statement, right? So they say a homeless Iowa mom of 2, right? But she's not actually homeless. She's living with her boyfriend, okay? Living with your boyfriend isn't homeless. That's actually, you are living in a home. Okay, so the very, very first part, they're like, oh, well, that's not her home. Okay, yeah, that is her home. If she's living with her boyfriend, that's her home. It might just be a 1-bedroom apartment, and that might be all that she can afford, but she is not homeless, okay? And the second thing that's very misleading about this, right? They're like, okay, this lady, she's on a Section 8 voucher, okay? Now, that's interesting and all, right? But here, this is one of the issues that I have with Section 8, right? So she has a boyfriend. How do we know that she's not going to go use this voucher to go rent an apartment and then move her boyfriend in there with her so that he can live on the cheap? You know what I mean? Basically, you have 2 adults, and when we get further into the article, you'll see that, yes, she is working, right? So we have 2 working adults, the boyfriend and the girlfriend, living together, and their combined income would mean that they don't actually need a voucher, okay? Because they can afford a place on their own, which basically they're already living in a place on their own that they can afford. Now, I realize, like boyfriend-girlfriend relationships are short-term, or, and a lot of them, they don't, work out very long-term and etc., right? But what I'm saying is that we have a person here who has a Section 8 voucher, who has the means and the ability, and is currently living in a place where she doesn't need a voucher. Okay, basically, she's abusing the system, and we're giving a voucher to a person who doesn't truly need it. That's the way I see it, okay? Now, them saying, oh, well, that's not a fair way to look at it. She should be judged only by her income, and that's garbage. Imagine this, right? I don't know what her boyfriend makes. I don't know what he makes, right? But let's say that they based the voucher on the fact that she's disabled, she has 2 kids, and she's working at, a minimum wage job, but her boyfriend makes $100,000 a year, and, I'm just staying in his mansion. I've been forced to just slum it here inside his $1 million mansion for the last, 6 months because I'm homeless. Like, okay, you don't sound like you're homeless to me. It don't sound like you're struggling to me. It sounds like your boyfriend's paying all your bills and you're doing just fine. But, like I said, this is part of my gripe with this whole voucher thing, right? Like, it's not truly looking at the needs, right? Like, if she had no one else, if she had nowhere to stay, etc., and she was, disabled and taking care of these kids, I almost would feel like, yeah, she deserves it, but that isn't even her situation. And the article says it right in like the very first couple of paragraphs here. So, like she's just ruined, any sympathy that a lot of us are going to have for her. That deadline, July 11th, is imposed by the State Housing Authority and applies to Quinn's Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher, which she's had for about 12 years. Quinn suffers from Charcot-Marie Tooth disease, which affects her motor and sensory nerves, compromising her mobility in her arms and legs. Though she receives about $1,000 per month in Social Security disability insurance, she also works at a local Subway sandwich shop to make ends meet. If Quinn doesn't find a new apartment with a landlord who will accept her voucher before July 11th, she'll lose the crucial housing benefit according to the paperwork she received from the Housing Authority, which Business Insider reviewed. With the voucher, Quinn paid up to about $250 of her $875 rent each month, as the program requires tenants to spend no more than 40% of their income on rent. If she loses her voucher, it would likely take years to get another. So yeah, we're talking about a person here who is basically 100% dependent upon the government for her lifestyle, right? So, she's got Social Security disability, she's got Section 8 housing, she likely gets food stamps. I'm just saying likely, I don't know, it doesn't mention that in the article. She likely has medical insurance, at least for her kids, paid for by the government, right? This is 100% welfare queen right here, okay? And, I will give her a break on one hand saying that, hey, yes, she is working, okay? She is not to the point where she's not working, right? But her lifestyle is 100% dependent on the government. It said that she was living in a 3-bedroom apartment before, and she was forced to leave. Now, I don't know what exactly, was going on where her previous landlord forced her to leave. It seems kind of odd to me that, hey, her previous landlord, like she's been on Section 8 for 12 years. Her previous landlord was taking Section 8 and she had been living there, and then she was forced to leave, and then she was put in this situation. I'm not going to go into it, right? It is what it is, right? It is what it is. I don't think that, I talk about how I don't like social programs, etc. She has them. I can't do anything about that, right? Other than rail against the fact that she has it in the first place. But what I can say is that the argument that this tenant or any tenant, right, should be forced onto a landlord who doesn't want to have to deal with it is garbage. It's absolute garbage. And you know what? I will never agree with it. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below.